Welcome back to History Recapped, where we bring the past to life and explore the stories that shaped our world. Today we're diving deep into one of the greatest sagas in human history, the rise of Rome. From a small settlement on the banks of the Tiber River to the master of the Mediterranean, this is the epic story of how Rome began, how it grew, and how the Republic's fall set the stage for an empire. Settle in, because this is just the beginning of a journey through more than 1,000 years of Roman history. The story of Rome begins in legend. According to Roman mythology, the city was founded in 753 BCE by twin brothers, Romulus and Remus. Abandoned as infants and left to die on the banks of the river Tiber, the brothers were saved by a she-wolf who nursed them until they were discovered by a shepherd. As adults, they decided to build a city on the very spot where their lives had been spared, but conflict erupted between them, and Romulus killed his brother Remus in a bitter quarrel. Romulus became the first king of Rome, giving his name to the city. While historians debate the accuracy of this tale, the legend reflects themes central to Rome's identity: divine favor, resilience in the face of hardship, and violent ambition. From the very beginning, Rome's destiny was tied to struggle and conquest. In its early centuries, Rome was ruled by a series of kings, many of whom were influenced by the neighboring Etruscans. They introduced advanced engineering, religious practices, and urban planning, transforming Rome from a small cluster of huts into a fortified city-state. But the last king, Tarquinius Superbus, or Tarquin the Proud, ruled as a tyrant. His cruelty sparked a revolt, and in 509 BCE, the Romans overthrew the monarchy and vowed never to be ruled by kings again. In its place, they established the Roman Republic, a revolutionary new system of government designed to balance power among multiple institutions and prevent tyranny. The Republic was built on a careful separation of powers. 2 annually elected consuls served as executive leaders, while the Senate, dominated by Rome's aristocratic patricians, controlled foreign policy and finance. The ordinary citizens, the plebeians, had little say at first, but over time they fought for and won significant political rights. Through the election of tribunes, officials empowered to veto unjust laws. Plebeians gradually gained influence, reshaping the Republic into a system that blended democracy, aristocracy, and elements of autocracy. Yet, beneath the surface, tensions simmered. These social divisions would become more dangerous as Rome expanded beyond its borders. By the 4th century BCE, Rome was no longer just a city. It was a rising power in central Italy. A series of brutal conflicts, including the Samnite Wars, tested Rome's resilience and military adaptability. Victory was never easy, but Rome's relentless determination and innovative tactics helped it dominate rival tribes and city-states. By 272 BCE, after defeating King Pyrrhus of Epirus and absorbing the Greek colonies of southern Italy, Rome became the undisputed master of the peninsula. This rapid rise, however, brought Rome into direct conflict with other Mediterranean powers, none greater than Carthage. The struggle between Rome and Carthage would shape the destiny of the ancient world. The First Punic War, 264–241 BCE, began as a contest for control over Sicily. Lacking a navy, Rome built one from scratch, developing the ingenious corvus, a boarding device that allowed Roman soldiers to fight sea battles like land engagements. After more than 2 decades of war, Carthage was defeated, and Sicily became Rome's first overseas province. The Second Punic War, 218–201 BCE, was an even greater test. Carthage's legendary general, Hannibal Barca, launched one of history's most daring campaigns, leading his army and his war elephants across the Alps into Italy. Hannibal inflicted catastrophic defeats on Rome at Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and Cannae, where nearly 50,000 Roman soldiers were killed in a single day. But Rome refused to surrender. Through sheer endurance, it adopted a strategy of attrition, avoiding direct confrontation while striking Carthaginian holdings elsewhere. Finally, under the leadership of Scipio Africanus, Rome invaded North Africa and defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in 202 BCE, cementing its dominance over the western Mediterranean. A century later, during the Third Punic War, 149–146 BCE, Rome utterly destroyed Carthage, razing the city and enslaving its population. Carthage ceased to exist, and Rome became the unrivaled superpower of the Western world. With new territories came immense wealth and immense problems. The spoils of empire flooded Rome with slaves and riches, transforming its economy and deepening social divisions. Small farmers, displaced by wealthy elites, flocked to the city, creating a vast urban poor dependent on grain handouts. Meanwhile, the Senate's grip on power hardened and corruption flourished. Reformers like Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus tried to redistribute land and restore balance, but their efforts ended in bloodshed. Political violence became a dangerous new reality, undermining the Republic's stability and setting the stage for powerful generals to exploit the chaos. Into this turbulent world stepped Julius Caesar. A brilliant strategist and charismatic leader, Caesar conquered Gaul in a series of campaigns from 58 to 50 BCE, expanding Rome's territory to the English Channel and amassing immense personal power. His growing influence alarmed the Senate and his rival Pompey Magnus. In 49 BCE, Caesar made a decision that would change history forever. He crossed the Rubicon River with his army, declaring open defiance against the Senate. "The die is cast," he reportedly said. Civil war erupted, and Caesar emerged victorious. As dictator, he enacted sweeping reforms, reorganizing the calendar, granting citizenship, and stabilizing Rome's finances. But his concentration of power made him enemies. On the Ides of March 44 BCE, a group of senators, including his former allies Brutus and Cassius, assassinated him, in believing they were saving the Republic. Instead, Caesar's death plunged Rome into further chaos and civil war, paving the way for his adopted heir Octavian to seize control. This sets the stage for the next chapter, the transformation of Rome from republic to empire under Augustus. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE, Rome descended into chaos once again. Two key figures emerged: Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and political heir, and Marcus Antonius, or Mark Antony, one of Caesar's closest allies. Initially, they formed the Second Triumvirate alongside Marcus Lepidus, sharing control of Rome and seeking vengeance on Caesar's assassins. The triumvirs unleashed a brutal campaign of proscriptions, executing hundreds of senators and equestrians accused of disloyalty. The assassins Brutus and Cassius were defeated at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE, ending their hopes of restoring the Republic. But unity among the triumvirs quickly dissolved. Tensions flared between Octavian and Mark Antony, whose affair with Queen Cleopatra VII of Egypt outraged Roman society. Antony's growing influence in the East and his political alliance with Egypt posed a direct challenge to Octavian's authority. In 31 BCE, the two sides clashed at the Battle of Actium, a decisive naval engagement off the western coast of Greece. Octavian's fleet, commanded by Marcus Agrippa, crushed Antony and Cleopatra's forces. Within a year, both Antony and Cleopatra committed suicide, leaving Octavian as the unrivaled master of Rome. In 27 BCE, Octavian formally restored power to the Senate but cleverly retained ultimate control, adopting the title Augustus, meaning the revered one. With this, the Roman Empire was born, though Augustus presented it as a continuation of the Republic to avoid accusations of tyranny. Augustus established a system known as the Principate, concentrating power in his hands while maintaining republican institutions for appearances. He became commander-in-chief of the army, controlled the provinces, and held the title of princeps, or first citizen. Under his leadership, Rome entered an unprecedented period of stability after decades of civil war. Augustus understood that political power alone was not enough. He needed legitimacy and lasting stability. His reforms touched every corner of Roman life. Military reorganization. He created a professional standing army of around 28 legions and established the Praetorian Guard. Administrative overhaul. He divided the empire into provinces, appointing governors loyal to him, and established an efficient tax system. Cultural revival. Augustus styled himself as a restorer of Roman tradition, funding temples, theatres and monuments, famously claiming, "I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble." Moral and social laws. He passed legislation promoting marriage and family while discouraging adultery and moral decay, though his own family often flouted these ideals. By the time of his death in 14 CE, Augustus had ruled for over 4 decades, leaving behind an empire unified, prosperous, and more powerful than ever before. After Augustus, the throne passed to his stepson Tiberius, marking the beginning of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. These emperors, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero, ruled Rome for nearly a century, blending moments of stability with scandal, intrigue, and terror. Tiberius, 1437 CE. A capable general and administrator, Tiberius maintained Augustus's policies but grew increasingly paranoid and reclusive. His later reign was marked by political trials and executions. Caligula, 3741 CE. Initially beloved, Caligula descended into infamous excess and cruelty, earning a reputation as one of Rome's most deranged rulers. His assassination in 41 CE shocked the empire. Claudius, 4154 CE. Despite being underestimated, Claudius proved effective, expanding Roman territory into Britain and reforming the bureaucracy. He was later poisoned, likely by his wife Agrippina. Nero, 5468 CE. Charismatic but reckless, Nero became notorious for his extravagance and suppression of dissent. After the Great Fire of Rome in 64 CE, he blamed Christians, launching the empire's first major persecution against them. Facing rebellion, Nero committed suicide, ending the Julio-Claudian line. Nero's death plunged Rome into a chaotic power struggle known as the Year of the Four Emperors, 69 CE. After a brutal series of civil wars, Vespasian emerged victorious, founding the Flavian dynasty. Vespasian and his sons, Titus and Domitian, brought stability and undertook grand construction projects, including the Colosseum, Rome's greatest amphitheatre. The Flavians also crushed the Jewish revolt, 6673 CE, destroying the Second Temple of Jerusalem, an event that reshaped Jewish history forever. Under Augustus and his successors, Rome entered a golden age known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. For over 2 centuries, from 27 BCE to 180 CE, the empire experienced relative stability, economic growth, and cultural flourishing. Roads, aqueducts, and infrastructure connected the vast territories, facilitating trade and integration. This was also a period of remarkable intellectual and artistic achievement. Writers like Virgil, Ovid, and Tacitus chronicled Roman society, while monumental architecture, from the Pantheon to triumphal arches, celebrated imperial power. Yet, beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Managing such a vast empire required constant vigilance, and pressures along the borders would eventually test Rome's strength. This brings us to the height of Roman power under the 5 good emperors and the eventual cracks that would lead to decline. Now we explore the empire at its zenith under the 5 good emperors, Rome's cultural flourishing, and the first signs of instability that would eventually reshape the ancient world. From 96 to 180 CE, Rome was ruled by 5 remarkable leaders: Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. This period marked the pinnacle of imperial stability, expansion, and achievement. Nerva, 96-98 CE, coming to power after the assassination of the tyrant Domitian, Nerva focused on restoring stability. His greatest decision was adopting the brilliant General Trajan as his heir, setting a precedent for selecting competent successors rather than relying solely on bloodlines. Trajan, 98–117 CE, Trajan expanded the empire to its greatest territorial extent, conquering Dacia, modern-day Romania, and launching successful campaigns in the Middle East, briefly capturing Mesopotamia. Under Trajan, wealth from new provinces flooded into Rome, funding monumental projects like Trajan's Forum and Trajan's Column. Hadrian, 117–138 CE. A visionary statesman, Hadrian shifted the empire's focus from conquest to consolidation. He strengthened borders, famously building Hadrian's Wall in Britain to defend against northern tribes. A lover of art and architecture, he left behind iconic works like the Pantheon, still standing today. Antoninus Pius, 138–161 CE. Known for his just and peaceful rule, Antoninus presided over one of the most stable periods in Roman history. His reign was marked by economic prosperity, legal reforms, and harmony within the empire. Marcus Aurelius, 161–180 CE. Philosopher, king, and author of Meditations, Marcus sought wisdom even amid chaos. His reign faced growing threats from Germanic tribes along the northern frontier and a devastating plague that killed millions. Despite his stoic leadership, his death marked the end of the empire's golden age. Marcus Aurelius broke the adoptive succession system by naming his son Commodus as emperor. Commodus's reign, 180–192 CE, was disastrous, marked by mismanagement, corruption, and cruelty. Obsessed with gladiatorial games and personal glory, he alienated Rome's elite and drained the treasury. After Commodus's assassination in 192 CE, Rome plunged into chaos. The year of the five emperors, 193 CE, saw multiple claimants vying for the throne. Eventually, Septimius Severus seized power, founding the Severan dynasty and restoring order temporarily. But cracks in the empire were widening. From 235 to 284 CE, Rome endured a period of near collapse known as the Crisis of the 3rd Century. Over 26 emperors rose and fell in less than 50 years, many assassinated by their own troops. The empire faced simultaneous crises. Military invasions, Germanic tribes, Persians, and other groups relentlessly attacked Roman borders. Economic decline, rampant inflation, debasement of currency, and collapsing trade destabilized the economy. Plagues and famine, disease ravaged the population, reducing the manpower needed to defend the empire. Internal division, the empire temporarily fractured into three rival states: the Gallic Empire, the Palmyrene Empire, and the core Roman Empire. Rome's survival seemed uncertain until one man changed its trajectory. In 284 CE, Diocletian became emperor and enacted sweeping reforms to save the empire. Realizing its vast size was unmanageable, he divided Rome into the Western and Eastern empires, each ruled by an Augustus with a subordinate Caesar, a system known as the Tetrarchy. Diocletian stabilized the borders, reformed taxation, and reorganized the military. He also launched the Great Persecution of Christians, attempting to suppress the growing religion, though it ultimately failed. After Diocletian's abdication, Rome descended into civil war until Constantine the Great emerged victorious in 312 CE. At the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, Constantine reportedly had a vision promising victory in this sign, the Christian cross. Following his triumph, he legalized Christianity through the Edict of Milan in 313 CE, transforming Roman society forever. Constantine also founded a new capital, Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, strategically located at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. This decision would shape the empire's future and ensure the Eastern Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire, would endure long after the West collapsed. By the mid-4th century, the Roman Empire remained vast and powerful, but beneath the surface, challenges were mounting: economic instability, increasing dependence on foreign mercenaries, and waves of migration and invasion along its frontiers. This sets the stage for the final act of the Western Roman Empire: the rise of powerful barbarian kingdoms, the sack of Rome, and the eventual collapse in 476 CE. After Constantine's death in 337 CE, the empire was divided among his three sons, leading to internal conflict and instability. By 395 CE, under Emperor Theodosius I, the division between the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire became permanent. The Western Empire, with its capital in Ravenna, struggled to defend its vast borders and declining resources. The Eastern Empire, centered in Constantinople, was wealthier and better protected, allowing it to endure centuries longer. The 4th and 5th centuries brought waves of barbarian migrations and invasions that strained Rome's defenses. The Huns, led by the fearsome Attila, swept across Europe, driving other tribes into Roman territory. The Visigoths, fleeing the Huns, were initially allowed to settle in Roman lands, but revolted after mistreatment. In 378 CE, they crushed the Romans at the Battle of Adrianople, killing Emperor Valens. In 410 CE, under Alaric I, the Visigoths famously sacked Rome, the first time in 800 years that the Eternal City had fallen to a foreign power. The Vandals, crossing from Spain into North Africa, captured Carthage in 439 CE and later plundered Rome in 455 CE. Each invasion weakened Rome's authority, drained its resources, and fractured its unity. Rome's decline wasn't caused by invasions alone. Internally, the empire was collapsing under its own weight. Economic crisis, heavy taxation, rampant inflation, and declining trade devastated the economy. Over-reliance on mercenaries. Rome increasingly relied on Germanic soldiers to defend its borders, many of whom were loyal to their tribal leaders rather than Rome. Political instability. Short-lived emperors rose and fell rapidly, often installed by military factions, undermining central authority. Population decline, plagues, famine, and war led to reduced manpower, crippling agriculture and the army. By the mid-5th century, the Western Empire was a shadow of its former self. The final blow came in 476 CE, when the Germanic general Odoacer deposed the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. Symbolically, this marked the end of the Western Roman Empire. However, it's important to note that for many living in former Roman territories, life didn't suddenly change overnight. Roman laws, culture, and language persisted under new rulers, blending with Germanic traditions to shape the foundations of medieval Europe. While the West crumbled, the Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, flourished. Wealthier, better fortified, and strategically positioned, it became what we now call the Byzantine Empire. Under Justinian I, 527–565 CE, the Byzantines launched ambitious campaigns to reconquer former Roman territories, reclaiming Italy, North Africa, and parts of Spain. Justinian also oversaw the creation of the Corpus Juris Civilis, a monumental legal code that still influences modern law today. Constantinople itself became one of the most magnificent cities in the world, adorned with architectural marvels like the Hagia Sophia. Its strategic location allowed the empire to control vital trade routes between Europe and Asia. The Eastern Empire endured for nearly 1,000 years after the fall of the West, finally succumbing to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. But by then, Rome's influence had already reshaped Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. Roman law, governance, and engineering became the backbone of Western civilization. Latin evolved into the Romance languages, still spoken by millions today. Christianity, legalized under Constantine, spread across Europe and became a defining force for centuries. Though the Roman Empire fell, its legacy became immortal. If you liked this video and want to see more history recapped, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.